Hey friends, आपका स्वागत है आज के मास्टर क्लास में and this is on one of the most favorite content management system written entirely in JavaScript, which is Strapi. Okay, so in today's master class, the language of the master class would be a combination of English and Hindi. And in today's master class, you will learn most of the things you need to know about Strapi. So what happens, friends, कि एक फ्रंट एंड डेवलपर को अगर एक एपीआई क्रिएट करना है, एक बैकएंड सिस्टम क्रिएट करना है, राइट, इट रिक्वायर्स अ लॉट ऑफ एफर्ट एंड स्ट्रापी पहली बात तो बहुत पॉपुलर है, इट्स ग्रोइंग एट एन एक्सपोनेंशियल रेट, बहुत बहुत स्पीड से ये ग्रो कर रहा है एंड लुक्स लाइक आने वाले 1-2 सालों में इट्स गोइंग टू बिकम द मोस्ट पॉपुलर content management system, and it's written entirely in JavaScript. It's entirely open source, and the best thing is कि आप एक complete API, एक backend system आप डिजाइन कर सकते हो कुछ मिनटों में, right? तो आज के क्लास में हम फंडामेंटल सीखेंगे स्ट्रापी का. हाँ, स्ट्रापी में और फर्दर आपको चीजें सीखनी हो, आप कैसे सीख सकते हो, तो हम उसके डॉक्यूमेंटेशन से फैमिलियर होंगे. हाँ, it's very easy to make you dependent on a video or a blog, but the smartest thing to do is that अपने डिपेंडेंसी को वीडियोस से और ब्लॉग से हटा के डॉक्यूमेंटेशन पे आप जितना ज्यादा कंफर्टेबल हो सके, that is going to be the best thing that you can do to yourself. Okay, so सबसे पहले हम कुछ फंडामेंटल्स देखेंगे स्ट्रापी का. हेल्प हमें चाहिए हो, कुछ ढूंढना हो तो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन में हम कैसे ढूंढ सकते हैं वो हम देखेंगे. एंड देन वी विल बी क्रिएटिंग अ कंप्लीट एपीआई. लेट मी गिव यू एन एग्जांपल, लेट मी शो यू एन एग्जांपल. सो ड्यूरिंग वन ऑफ द full stack development classes, एक I'm sorry, it's weird. So during one of the full stack development classes, we had a project, full stack project. It was about a library management system, right? तो उसमें एक complete library management system था. इसमें जैसे बुक्स का एक आप ग्रिड देख सकते हैं. दिस इज कमिंग फ्रॉम ए बैकएंड सिस्टम, राइट? अब आप उसमें लॉग इन कर सकते हैं, लॉग आउट कर सकते हैं, फिर आप लिस्ट ऑफ बुक्स देख सकते हैं, राइट? सो डेटा इज लोडिंग फ्रॉम द बैकएंड. And let's give it a second to load. I'm just checking कि backend system चालू है क्या. Yes, backend system is on and really fast. Yeah, so we got a list of books here. And so these are all coming from the database. So I'll just show you the from our backend system which I created, and it took me like less than 20 minutes to create and host this entire backend system, and we will do that, right? I'll show you the entire steps that I took, and you will be very comfortable with Strapi by the end of this class. Okay, so whenever you'll need to create a backend system, it will be like, oh yeah, I can do it, I have Strapi and I can do it pretty quickly. Okay, so see, for example, the data is coming from this backend system which I have created in Heroku's free tier. Okay, it was super easy, just one button click thing. So let me change something here, change the way you think, right? So I'll go to that particular book, change the way you think, and let me make some change here from the API, from the Heroku Strapi instance. So a grade book, for example. Okay, and I'll save it. And now if I go back to the front end app and I refresh the page, so we'll see that the title has changed. Okay, this is a proof that it's coming from the backend. Also, we have a great and very simple API. So from the front end, so you can see this is localhost. It's a local React application. Okay, it's a local React application that I've written. So in this localhost, I can see this individual book. Okay, And the best thing is if I'm logged in, again, authentication is done using Strapi authentication system. I can see options to edit and delete the book. And if I edit the book, I can edit it here. So we have the book title. I can remove this a great book. I can make it a cool book. Okay. I can change anything I need. Also, I can add more authors to it. So maybe, I'm adding one more author to it. I can add or remove tags from it. And if I create a new tag, for example, test tag, okay, so it will be created in the content management system and saved here, and I'm able to submit it. So you can see how easy it is to create different content, and it's a full-blown system. Here you can see I have both the authors listed here, right? So it's a full system. And in today's class, right, after understanding the fundamentals, we'll be creating the entire backend system that I created for this. Okay, sounds like a good idea. Great. So let's move. So this is the Strapi official site. Again, it is very nice. It's a cool page. It demonstrates some of the abilities of Strapi. One of the things that we will learn today is dynamic zones. It's showing that as well, right? And for someone entirely new to this kind of headless CMS, so what it's responsible for is the backend system gives us this data whenever and however we need, and it gives us endpoint to edit, create, modify, delete data, right? It gives us an easy way to create a model, a nice structure, and perform CRUD operations. And it happens all through an API, application interface, okay? And this API is then consumed by our front-end system. So we make requests to we hit certain endpoints like this, and we get data, or we put data, or we post data, whatever, okay? So backend system is responsible that it gives us an easy way to model our application and easy way to create, read, update, delete any of the fields, any of the data, any of the things really easily, right? It gives us an interface, an API using which our front end, any front end application can interact with. Awesome, it's great, it's great. And you will see in less than 2 hours, we'll be able to cover everything, okay? Literally everything. So yeah, what is Strapi? Strapi is a headless content. So we'll go to fundamentals, okay? And then we will jump into examples. That way, our understanding will be having more depth. At the same time, we will explore the documentation. Suppose we come across a term, content type. What is that content type? Dynamic zone. What is that dynamic zone? We will go through the documentation. We'll see how to navigate through the documentation. So it's a headless content management system. So here, one thing you have to pay attention to is it's a content management system. At the same time, it's headless. What is headless? Content management system is very popular, right? Everyone knows WordPress, Drupal. So they are all content management system. So a CMS is a software application used for web development that allows us to create, edit, and publish content, right? One thing that is not here in the definition is it also allows us to create a structure, a model, right? For example, every blog must have an image, an author, some content, some tags. So that is a model. That is the model of a blog page, and that can be, there can be multiple blogs of that particular structure, right? Home pages are usually dynamic, right? So they are single, and they're of single type, and they can have multiple different type of fields, right? Now, what is headless? This is something that you need to, I gave you an idea of this already. I've already given you an idea of this, but headless is separating the head, that is the front end, from the body, that is the back end. So headless CMS does not care about how contents get displayed. So if you have ever worked with, for example, Drupal. So Drupal's front end part is very tightly coupled to the Drupal's backend part. So you have to, so for example, in most of the cases, when you want to make any changes to the front end, right? Then you have to dig into that Drupal's render array and its twig system, and you have to learn entirely new thing, right? But in a headless system, the front end, it's front end agnostic. You see here, it's front end agnostic. So it gives you an API and you can consume it in phone, in watch, using Angular application, using React, using Vue, using anything, right? So basically it's front end agnostic and it is purely decoupled from the front end. There are ways in making WordPress and Drupal behave like headless CMS, but that's not that's a different thing. But this thing, Strapi, is built headless, so it's like very front end independent, and it's built, it's made for us so we can create APIs really easily. Okay. Strapi is open source. It has a great community. Open source without a great community is sort of useless, right? So it has a very active community. Just like it's front end agnostic, it's also database agnostic. You can use any database system. It's extendable, right? Last week, I wrote a Strapi plugin that adds lots of new features to Strapi, right? And it was so easy and so much fun to write it, friends. So this is one of the, like, for me, this is one of the most important, a factor why I think Strapi is going to become the next big thing in the enterprise world. Is first, it's easy. The barrier to entry is minimum. It's very easy to get started. In this kind of a 2-hour class, you can be very comfortable with it, right? So that is one thing. And second, it's very extendable and very easy to extend it. So even, Strapi as a core, it has like one is the server part and another is the admin part. Admin is something we will see that you use to, structure the model and everything. And backend part, server part is what you know, all the logic related to APIs and controllers and services and routers, etc., goes to the services, right? And similarly, plugins, they have these two, chunks. One is the server side, another is the admin side. So if you want to make any changes to Strapi's admin admin, UI, for that you have admin things. For server related things like routes, like controllers, services, everything, you have a different, you have a mechanism to customize all of that, right? So it is a great it is a great plugin system. So this is one of the things that which is responsible for its growing popularity. And you get RESTful services and GraphQL support out of box. You don't have to do anything. And users and permissions, the security aspects are also out of box, right? It's already built for you. So there are some requirements. Node version for the stable 14 version is like fully supported. So the plugin that I developed, I used Node version 14, the latest of 14. For managing different versions of Node in the system, I prefer using FNM. It's a very lightweight thing written in Rust, and it's really fun to use it. You need a code editor or a terminal. I use VS Code for that. Then there are you need Yarn. They I recommend using Yarn instead of npm. And then an API client. So usually what happens is in the VS Code, you can install this Thunder client where you can, make different requests and check their response, etc. This is one option. Another option is that you can use a client like Postman, Insomnia, or you can just use browser as well. That's to make GET requests. Okay. And for installation, etc., you don't need to depend on any documentation, any blog or such notes. You should directly go to the the Strapi website, go to the docs, okay, and go to the you can either go to the user or developer docs, and all you need to do is just click on quick start guide, and you'll get the command to run. Okay, so you can either use yarn or npm. I recommend yarn. It's, I think, much better than smoother. The experience, developer experience, is much smoother as compared to npm. And lots of errors we hit while using npm, we just don't get them while using yarn. But use one of them. Don't use a combination of yarn and npm. And it's a great quick start guide. Okay, I'll definitely recommend that. Get comfortable with documentations. Look at the quick start guide. Look at all the other. There's a different section for installation altogether, going through the project structure and everything, right? And these are different aspects: the backend customization, the admin panel customization. Everything is customizable. Strapi in itself. So here you will see that in the admin panel, as soon as you do the installation, you will be provided a URL, something like this. You will be provided a URL where you can access admin. Okay, so if we go there, we get this kind of a screen. Okay, so here in my notes, what I have written is I have described all of these admin panels. So here we have, as you can see, content manager, content type builder, media library. Then there are two things. I'll explain what they are. Then in the general section, we have plugins, marketplace, and settings. Okay. So now, what are they? So first of all, content manager is a place where the content lives, right? And you can manage the content from that section. So for example, in our application, we'll be building our application. So right now I have a content type, a collection type called author. Okay. And author, there are 3 authors created. So author is a collection type. Okay. It's a type. It's a model. It's a resource. It's an object. And it has 3 data in it. So this is the actual content: author 1, author 2, author 3. If I click, I can see I have author name, author 1, and author age 11, for example. Okay, and I have selected related books here as well. We'll look into it. Don't worry about the specifics. Just know that in the content manager section, we get the data that we have created, not the model. Okay, not the content type related things, but the actual data, the actual content that we have written. Okay, so for that, the place is content manager. Again, when we will look at a real example, things will make much more sense to you. So just be with me. Then we have this plugin section. So you can see we have this entire plugin section. So plugin section allows us to customize Strapi. Strapi core is really thin, right? It's just something that glues a lot of plugins together. It gives us a system to, hook to certain events and create plugins. That's it. Okay, it's very thin, and everything else, functionality wise, are plugins. Okay, and this plugin sections allows us to customize Strapi. So out of box, when you install Strapi, you get two plugins, Content Type Builder and Media Library. Content Type Builder and Media Library. So we will look into them individually. What are they? Okay. You see two more of them in the screenshot, SEO and Custom API Builder. You see them here. So excuse me, friends. Sorry for that. So SEO is one of the plugins that I have installed using the Strapi marketplace. Okay. So Strapi marketplace. So here we have lots and lots of plugins that can be used to enhance the capabilities of Strapi. So I installed this from the marketplace. So that's why you are seeing this SEO here. And custom API builder is something that I built from scratch. Okay. So this is something like Drupal views that I created from scratch just in the last week. So it's a very powerful thing. I'll just show you. So basically you can create a custom API and you can give it a name. You can give it a slug. For example, you can give it a name, test API. Okay, I'll go through that. And so basically it's a full blown system that I created last week. Okay, so I basically extended Strapi easily. So that is an example. So these are all plugins. So apart from core Strapi, some of the plugins that enhances the functionality, that actually adds functionality to Strapi. Then we have general section. And the general section of the admin panel contains Strapi settings, where you can configure plugin settings, use the marketplace to install new plugins, and edit settings such as adding administration, etc. So let's look into them really quickly. So let's go to plugins content type builder. Okay. So if I click on the content type builder, I can see we have a few collection types. We have a single type and we have a few components. Okay. When you install them, you won't be able to see these things like authors, books, publishers, right? These are something that I have created just to play around with Strapi. Okay. So there are a few collection types or models, right? So for example, we need an author for whatever reasons, right? And for author, we need fields like author name, author age, and the books they have written. So let's go to the books. So in the books, you can see that we just have one field, book title, and a couple of, it can have relationship with an author. So every book can have one or many authors, and every book can have one or more publishers. So we have created that relationship. And if we look at the publisher collection type, uh, we see it has two fields, publisher name and books. Okay. Now let us create a simple example from scratch to be able to understand these collection types properly. Okay, so we'll go over them one by one, collection types, then we'll go through single types, then we'll go through components. Okay, so first of all, as you see collection type, the first thing that ideally you should be doing is go to the documentation. Go to the documentation and search for it. Search for collection types. So you can see that we have a couple of documentation: introduction to the content type builder, introduction to the content manager. So this is something perhaps we need. So introduction to the content type builder, right? So let's read it out quickly so that we know where to find information. So the content type builder is a core plugin of Strapi. So it ships with Strapi as you install it. It is a feature that is always activated by default and cannot be deactivated. Okay, so it's required. The content type builder is, however, accessible only when the application is in development environment. Administrators can access content type builder from content type builder in the main navigation of the admin panel. So what they have said so far is using this content type builder, we can access this content type builder. From the content type builder, administrators can create and manage content types like collection types and single types, and also components. So there are three things that we can manage. One is collection type, another is single types and components. So things are like slowly starting to make sense, right? So what I'm doing here is, friends, I want you to get comfortable with documentation. I'm teaching you how to learn a new framework yourself. Okay. And this is the process. You should not be dependent on any video or book or anything. You should be able to, because in these dynamic systems, things change, right? Things upgrade really quickly. So the idea is that I'm teaching you, if I get a content management system that I have to work with, something entirely new, how will I go about it? Okay, so it's a valuable information, super valuable information. So from the content type builder, administrators can create, manage content types, collection types, single types, and components. Okay. So what are collection types? Collection types are content types that can have several entries. So for example, we talked about blog. So blog can have several entries, right? There can be hundreds of blogs or lakhs of blogs using the same content type called blog. So those are called collection types in the Strapi terminology. Okay, so if we have to create a blogging system, we will create a collection type called blog so that any user can create any number of blogs. Does that make sense? Right. Single types are content types that only manage one entry. So an example could be about us page, right? So in most of the cases, in most of the websites, there is just one about us page. It has a very specific structure, for which we don't need multiple entries, right? Usually there's just one home page. Okay. There can be multiple landing pages, but usually there is one home page and it has a very complex structure. We don't need to replicate that multiple times. If we need to replicate, then that would be a landing page collection type, right? Not single type. If we are sure that something we have to manage just one entry, for that we have single types. Then components are data structure that can be used in multiple collection types and single types. So components, what are they? They are basically a collection of field, a reusable collection of fields. For example, a hero section. Okay. So they have an image, a title, a subtitle, and a description. Okay. So those three are reusable things, right? A combination of an image, title, subtitle, and description, and maybe also a link, a CTA button, call to action button, right? So they can be grouped together. These fields can be grouped together to form a component, right? So three things that can be managed from content type builder: collection, single types, and components. Okay. And all three are displayed as categories in the sub navigation of content type builder. So this is content type builder and this is the sub navigation. This is the sorry friends. This is the main navigation in the admin panel, and this is the sub navigation for content type builder. And we have three sections here, one for collection type, another for single types, and third for components. We'll create all of them, friends. We'll be creating all of them. In each category are listed all content types and components that have already been created. So for everything that has already been created, they can be seen here. For example, these collection types have already been created, so we can see them here. None of the collection types are created, so we just see a way to add a new collection type, and there are a couple of components already created, so we can see them as well here. Nice. From each category of content type builder sub navigation, it is possible to click an existing content type or component to access it, edit it, right? Or create a new one. So these things are, see a very short documentation, but we know everything about content type builder for now. Okay, we will come across a few more new terms and we will go to them. So let's create a collection type for maybe a blog. Okay, so let me create a new collection type and its display name would be blog. So it gives us, two IDs, one for singular and one for multiple. So when we are referring to an individual blog, it's a blog. When we are referring to multiple blogs, it's a blog. So for singular and plural, it gives us a way to add two IDs. I'll continue. So friends, we are creating a collection type called blogs because blogs can have multiple entries. So when I click continue, I see lots of fields. Most of them look simple to me, like text, rich text, number, date, Boolean, right? Three things that might look a bit different to you is one is this relation, another is this component, and third is this dynamic zone, okay? So these three we will explore, okay? Let's go with the simple ones. So let me create a text field and this can be our blog title. Okay, so here we have a blog title, blog title. Then we can add, maybe an image. Okay, so here for image, we go to media and blog main image, and so here it gives an option like, can there be multiple images or do I need just one single image? So for example, if I select single media, I'll add another field. Maybe last one for our example can be a rich text where we can add the blog body, right? So blog body can come here. Just finish it. Okay, so we have a collection type. We have just created, friends, a collection type called blog, and blog has three fields. One is blog title, another is blog main image, and the third is blog body. Let me save it. It's rebuilding the admin UI. Okay, we'll give it a minute to load. And now you see, we can see the blog entry, blog collection type here and its fields here. So collection type is basically to create our structure, to manage the structure, the models, right? Different parts of the admin. But in order to create a blog, where do we need to go? We need to go to content manager because we want to create a content. We want to write a blog. Okay, so I'll go to content manager. I'll go to blog. We can see that right now there are no contents for blog. So what I'll do is I'll create a new entry. So I'll give it a title. For example, my first blog, I can select an asset or an image. So let me download an image first. Blog image. Okay, so I just download from Unsplash so that we are safe. So from Unsplash, I'll just download any image and make sure that they are from Unsplash. No, I don't want iStock. I need Unsplash. Yeah, so here it is. So I go to Unsplash, I download in the desktop blog image, the main hero image for the blog, and I'll add that. So I'll add a blog and I'll upload it to my asset library and I'll finish it. And then I can give some body. Okay, so this is my, maybe I'll just copy paste some lorem ipsum, and I'll just copy some of these. Okay, maybe this as well. Okay, I'll just copy this as well, paste it. I'll make it a title and anything else. I can make this maybe a link. Okay, https://google.com. So you can see very user friendly. It's by default it's a markdown editor, but you can, you know, you can make it anything. You can customize it to use anything, and then we hit save. Okay, once it's saved, you need to publish it. So it's published now. And now if you go to the content manager and blog, you will see that the blog with ID 1 is our new blog. Okay, and what you have to do next is you need to go to plugins, settings, I'm sorry. You need to go to roles, you need to go to public, under user permissions plugin, roles, public, and here blog, you need to make it so that anyone from the public can find one blog, and it also gives you a route here. Okay, and I'll hit save. So now if I again go back to localhost and the API for the blogs, so if I go to blogs, so any front-end application can hit blogs and they get back this beautiful thing here. Okay, so any application can hit this API if it's hosted somewhere. And for example, it's our React application and we have a list of all the blogs. If I need a single blog, then I can go to one and I see this, the single blog. So right now there is just one blog, so we are seeing one here. If we hit just the blogs route, then usually it will show us all the blogs in the chunk of 25. Okay, so this easy it was to create a blog model or a blog content type. Okay, now let's explore the fields by reading the documentation. Okay, so for example, while creating our blog, I'll go to blog, and if I add another field, rest everything else makes sense to us, but this relation field, the component field, and the dynamic zone, these three are three new things for us, right? So let's explore what they are. First, let's see what a relation is. So I'll go to Strapi documentation and search for relation. So here we see managing relation fields. So relation fields added to a content type from content type builder allows us to establish a relation with another content type, which should be a collection type. Okay. So if we want some of our content to have relation to something else, some other collection type, we create um, we create these relationships. For example, just an example for all of you. In our case, in our example, I want that every blog should be connected to one of the authors. Okay. Every blog should be connected to one of the authors. One author can write one or multiple books, and each book can have one or many publishers. Suppose we want such a structure. So every blog should be having relation to an author. So if I click on add new field and I select relation here, so what I can do is I can select author. In the blog, every blog can have authors. Okay. Every blog can have multiple authors, and every author can write multiple blogs. So here I have created many to many relations. If I select this, that means there can be, you know, multiple blogs, but with only one author. Here, there can be multiple authors to a blog, right? But every author can have just one blog. But what makes sense to me here is any number of blogs can be written by any number of authors. Any number of authors can write any number of blogs. So I'm using many to many relation, and here it's very clearly in a human understandable format. It's explaining that blogs has and belongs to many authors. Blogs has many authors. Blog can belong to many authors. If I hit if I hit finish, we see a new relation field authors here. Let me hit save. We'll let the admin UI rebuild. And give it a moment to rebuild. This happens with Zoom calls, okay? Everything takes extra time and all the shortcut keys are messed up at times. Now, if I go to Content Manager and go to blog and edit my blog, you will see that I have a relation way to add a relation here. So it can be, so you can see that author one is already selected here. So author one wrote this first blog and I hit save. And now if I go to blogs or blog/1, you'll see that we have a blog title, we have a blog body, and we don't really see the relation fields here. So for that, what we have to do is we have to populate. I'm not sure what it is. I'm really not sure what it is, but yeah, populate star or any number of fields. So blog main image, and we are able to see we should ideally be able to see the blog title, the blog body, and where is that? Let me see. I have added this, I have saved this. I go to blog again, then I see that author one is selected here. Maybe I unpublish and publish it again. And now when I populate everything, somehow I don't see the relation field here. But yeah, let's see. Let's see in the documentation. So I'll just open a new tab, or maybe just duplicate it. And select REST API. And let's see why we are not able to see that. So REST API allows access to content types through API endpoints, and that Strapi automatically creates. And API parameters can be used to filter, sort, and paginate results, and to select fields and relations to populate. So yeah, we have something for relations. For that, we use API parameters. Additionally, specific parameters related to optional Strapi features can be used, like publication, state, local, and following other parameters available. Sort for sorting, filters, populate. So populate relations, components, or dynamic zones. This looks this looks what we are looking for. So see, friends, immediately, in the documentation, we can find something that we are really looking for. So by default, Strapi will not populate. It's currently not possible to return just an array of IDs. Okay. So populate star should ideally give us all the relations. So populate star should ideally give us everything we need. Okay, we see main image, but not the authors. So we are giving it a question mark, and we are giving in our query. Populate. So we have made no mistakes here. So to populate only specific relations, one level, use the relation name in combination with the populate parameter. So populate 0 equals to categories. Let's see if I can use something like this. Star should ideally work as per the documentation, but if I select authors, I'm still not able to. Okay, blog /1. Okay, we need to go to specific blog, and then in the content type builder, we have we go to blog, and in blog we have authors, which is a many-to-many relationship, and let it start. It's authentication. Users permission model is also very robust. So let's see if we are not allowed to see authors, right? Not show them to public, then we won't be able to see them. So let me go to settings. Let me go to rules. Let me go to public. And for authors, yeah, so we should be able to, public should be able to find one author. Also for blog, let me see what is the key for find API/blogs, and for find one, we have API/blogs/ID. So if it was a permission issue, we should be able to see it now. So I'll just do populate equals to star, and And yeah, we can see that information about authors. So that is super awesome, right? So we were not able to see the authors because public didn't had the permissions to see author. That's why even if we did populate star, we were not able to see authors. So this is the power of roles and permissions. So this is inbuilt in Strapi, already built for you. Okay, so so now we can see that how easily we were able to add relationships and then access our block. So in the content section, if I go here again, we have explored in the collection type list of fields, we have explored relation. It's really simple. Basically linking one collection type to another collection type. Okay, so there can be any type of relationship, one to many, many to one, many to many. And to create a relationship between two collection types, mandatory collection types, we use relation field. Okay, now what is a component and what is a dynamic zone? It's really interesting and we will see them after a short break. Okay, I hope you're finding it interesting, and the best way to master it is, build something yourself. Just download it, explore it, play around with it. Okay, that is the best way to learn any new framework. Okay, so after the break, we will go to component. What is component? What is dynamic zone? We'll create some of them. Then we'll go to collection type and everything. Okay. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed working with Strapi so far. And let's take a quick short break. Let's take a quick short break. Friends, half more minute remaining. If you are away from the screen, please come back. All right, let's get started. So until now, we got a nice introduction to Strapi Headless CMS. We understood what is a content management system. We understood what is a headless content management system. Headless content management system is decoupled from its front end so that it's front end agnostic. Uh, we have a system, we have an application to create and manage content, and how it is displayed is none of its business. Okay, it can be whatever they need, it can be consumed in whatever way um, the company supports or the developer supports or whatever. Okay, then we looked into the content manager, which basically gives us a list of all the content, the real content, the data. Then we went to content type builder. So content type builder, we can see there are three content types of content types. Okay, one is a collection, another is single type, and third is components. What are collection types? A content type which can have multiple entries. Any content type that can have multiple entries, and a classic example is a blog content type. We can have a content type called blog with a title, with an image, with some description, and there can be multiple blocks. Think of it as a stamp. Okay, so we have created a stamp, and that stamp can be used. The same content type can be used to create lots and lots of entries of that content type. Then we went into, and most important thing, friends, in today's class we are learning about Strapi, and we are also learning, like in most of my classes you'll find that I also teach how to learn. As a developer, one skill that each one of us must have is the ability to learn, ability to grasp new concepts, ability to get familiarize ourselves with new frameworks, right? So today we are learning both Strapi and how to learn. Now, we were creating a content type called blog, and while adding fields, we came across three new things. The rest everything looked really, familiar to us. One was relation, another was component, another was dynamic zone. So relation, we have already seen. It's a way of making a relationship between two different collection types. Okay. Now, what is a component and what is a dynamic zone? Let's learn their definition, what they are in the documentation, and then we will create a couple of examples. Now, let me go to the documentation and we will look for component and dynamic zone. So if I search for dynamic zone, inside the development, so we can see lots of things coming up, right? So using Strapi's entity service, again, we are not going that route. So what are models, right? Content types, components. This is something that we may need. So if I go here, let us go through this not so long documentation. Okay, so we get a nice idea of everything, and it will be mostly a revision of most of the things that you have learned so far, but it's very good page. Okay, this is a page that you should bookmark. So Strapi is a headless content management system. Creating a data structure for content is one of the most important aspects of using a CMS. Models define a representation of a data structure. Okay. So again, taking example of blog, it has a structure, it has a data structure, and model is defining a representation of a data structure. And there are two different types of models in Strapi: content types, which can be collection types or single types, depending on how many entries they manage, and components, which are reusable data structures. In other words, components, again, it will come further in the document. It's basically a reusable collection of fields. Okay. So if you are starting out, it's convenient to generate some models with content type builder directly in the admin panel. The user interface takes over a lot of validation tasks and showcases all the options available to create the contents data structure. The generate model mappings can be reviewed at the code level using the documentation. We have seen this, okay? We have created a content type using the available fields. Content types and component models are created and stored differently. So now what we are trying to dive into is what is the difference between a content type and a component. And we will look into component first, because then what is a dynamic zone, it will make more sense to you, and also give you some real world example of components and dynamic zone. Okay. If you pay attention, I'll assure you that you will understand this concept. It's a bit complicated, but you will understand it. So first thing, content types and components are different things. Okay. So we know how we can create a content type, right? And the definition is actually stored in a schema file. Okay, you can explore it later. I won't go there. And yeah. Now, what are components? Content types we have already seen. I'm not going there that again. Components can't be created with CLI tools. Okay, we have not seen CLI tools, so you may ignore it. We use content type builder to create them manually. Components are stored in this location, components, and every component has to be inside a subfolder named after the category of the component it belongs to. It makes a bit of sense. I can see that it's not that clear, but don't worry, I'll be explaining you. These are some things that make sense only after we explore them, after we spend some time there. So let's see what these attributes are, then we'll move ahead. The data structures of a model consist of a list of attributes. Each attribute has a type parameter which describes its nature and defines the attribute as simple piece of data or more complex structure used by Strapi. Many of the attributes are available: scalar types, string, dates, number, booleans, Strapi specific types such as media for uploading, relation to describe relation, component to define a component, which is usable in multiple content types. Then dynamic zone defines a dynamic zone that is a flexible space based on a list of components. So what I can get from here is that we can create multiple components and we can create a zone, a dynamic zone, in which we can use multiple components, a multiple combination, permutation combination of components. I'll give you a very real world example of it. Okay, let's go through the documentation. I know it's dry to go through the documentation, but as a developer, it's an essential skill. You have to get comfortable going through the documentations. Okay, there is no way around that. So let's see if we can get some more information about dynamic zones here, then I'll directly go to example and try to explain you from my own experience. So here I saw one place we had a link to dynamic zones. Let's see where it takes us. So yeah, so we really don't have much information here. Let me explain you from my experience. So if you look at Notion app, for example, it is a big dynamic zone in Strapi's terminology. For example, these are all placeholders for adding different components. For example, here I can add a component called heading. Okay, so this is a heading one component. I can add a heading 2 by clicking plus. So this is a subheading, for example. This is a subheading component. I can add, maybe a table. This is a table component. I can add an image. I can add a number of components. So think of it as a big dynamic zone in Strapi's terminology. And there are several zones in which we can add any component that is available to this dynamic zone. I feel this is one of the best ways or the easiest way to visualize what is a dynamic zone and what is a component. Okay, now let's build it so that it makes slightly more sense to us. Sorry for the very bad throat, friends. Okay, now let's create a couple of components. So I'll go to components. I'll create a new component. So first thing, I'll maybe name it heading 1. Just an example. And select a category or enter a name to create a new one. Okay, I'll just keep everything in shared. Or I can create a new name, my custom components. Okay, custom components. Okay, so now we have my custom components. I can give it an icon of heading maybe, and I'll continue. Maybe it needs, maybe there are some requirements to it. So my custom components maybe. And now we can select fields for our custom component. This particular custom component will be having 2 fields, title and a subtitle. Okay, so we have a collection type, a component collection called my custom components. Okay, category called my custom component. It has a component called heading 1 that we have just created. Let's create it one more component, just one more component. 2-3 more components so that the dynamic zone will make more sense to us. Next component that we'll build will take two things. One is an image and one is a text. Okay, so that's that's a component that can be, that's a very common component. So I'll create a new component. I'll name it maybe hero. Okay, and category can be my custom components. And for hero, let me see if I can find something. So say this is the icon, and hero will be containing an image field. We'll name it hero image. And then another rich text field called hero description. See how easy Strapi has made it for us. And we can save our second component, which is hero. What can we make for our third component? Maybe a simple paragraph, okay? A paragraph of text, why not? Now the third component could be a simple paragraph, okay? A simple paragraph, and it's a part of my custom components. And let me search for an icon. So this looks a good enough icon for a paragraph. It will contain a rich text field, paragraph of text, maybe. Finish. Usually, if something contains just one thing, we don't really need it. So let's make it more real world. So a paragraph can again be a combination of some text in the left side, maybe, and some whatever, something, a combination of a number, maybe, some number in paragraph. And it's going to be an integer, some number in paragraph. Okay. And another field could be some text in paragraph. Okay. Some text in paragraph. Finish it and save it. So we have created 3 components so that it will be fun to explore dynamic zone. So now let's see the experience of building the blog, the editor experience for blog, and then let's see how it is once we add a dynamic zone to it. Okay. Now let's go to content type builder blog. First, let's go to content manager blog. And when we are creating a blog, we see we have a place to add title, a way to select an image, a way to enter some markdown, and way to select a relation. Okay, right now we just have these things. Now, if I go to content type builder, now if I go to blog and add another field, and that field will be a dynamic zone. Okay, so I'll just name it blogs dynamic zone. So as the name suggests, till now all the fields and structure were fixed. but this zone that it's going to get is going to be dynamic. So we can have, you know, different combination of fields there. Okay, and those components, different components can have further collection of fields. So let's see how it looks like. No space is allowed. Blocks dynamic zone. Then we can add components to the zone. So add new components for the dynamic zone. We want to use existing components. So what I want is I want to use my everything inside my custom components. Okay, and I'll hit save. So we can see that we have let's see what we get. Okay, so we have these three custom components. We can see their logos here as well, and let's see what we get just by adding a dynamic zone to our blog using the content type builder. Okay, so I'll hit save. I let the admin UI build. Whenever we make any changes, the admin UI needs to build itself, right? And now if I go to the content manager and I go to blog and I try to edit the blog, so we see that we have a dynamic zone here. Are you able to see it? So here it says add a component to blog's dynamic zone. So I'll click here and it lets us pick one of these, heading, hero, or paragraph. Let me select heading. So this is cool. This is cooler than my expectation. Okay. Then we again get an option. So we can add something else. It's very similar to Notion, right? Just the user experience is different. Now it can be either heading one, hero, or paragraph. Let's add a hero. Let's add an image to it. And the hero can have its description. Okay. And we can add more dynamic zone. So without dynamic zone, the structure is fixed. We have a title, we have an image, we have a body. But whenever we have a dynamic zone, we have a collection of components. We have a set of components and we can use any one of them any number of times. Okay. So we have added a hero as well. Now let's add a couple of paragraphs. So any number here, one maybe, paragraph. So any paragraph here, then two paragraph, three paragraph. Think of a situation where you have a blog and you have to give a 50-50 component, right? The left side is an image, right side is a description. In some cases, some cases there is a list of cards, okay? So dynamic zone can be used where you don't want to give it a rigid structure like a collection type. You want to be able to place anything anywhere you want, okay? And now if I hit save, now if I go to the blog, you can see that I get all the items in my dynamic zone. So I get the type and I get all the fields. So in the front end, I can check the type and render the fields accordingly. I can check the type and I can render the fields accordingly. I can check the type and render the fields accordingly. So this is super amazing in my opinion. Okay, this is super amazing. Nice. So we have seen what is a content type builder. Inside that, we have created a blog ourselves. And if I add another field to it, we have seen everything here. We know what a component is. We know what a dynamic zone is. What is a component? In easy words, a set of fields that make up a unit. Okay. And what is a dynamic zone? A set of components, and not even a set of components. A dynamic zone is a zone in the admin region where you can add, you know, any component from a set of components, as simple as that. So this is again super cool. We see how feature rich Strapi is out of the box, right? We have not installed any plugins yet. We have not created any plugins. We have not done much customization. This is everything coming out of Strapi out of box. Okay, cool, awesome. I just love this CMS. That's why, if the requirement is very hard that we need to write a backend using Goa or Express or Fastify, then I write that way. Else, whenever I have a choice, I use Strapi for any level of complication, it may have, but Strapi can do it. Okay, it's super awesome, friends. Okay, now let's see what is a single type. So single type basically, is something like, let's create one. Okay, so it makes more sense. So I'll name it about page. Okay, about page. Continue. And again, it can contain any number of fields. It can contain maybe a text or title and a rich text for description. And I can hit save. Now, what is the major difference between a single type and a collection type? Once we go to the content manager, it will be very clear to us. So we'll let the admin UI rebuild itself. And now if you go to the content manager, we have a single types author page, but we don't have a way to add many author pages like collection. So for example, in the blog we see a list of blogs and a way to create multiple entries, right? But when it's a single type, we don't get that option to add multiple entries to that. So we can just add title of about page and some description of the about of the company in markdown and hit save. That's it. So for single types, there are not multiple entries. For collection types, there are, like blog, we have multiple entries. Friends, believe me, this much of knowledge is more than enough to build a very, very real world application. The only thing that I have not covered is fiddling with the code and writing the plugins, which needs an entirely separate master class. But with this much of information that I have taught you, the skills to go through the documentation and just watch it again if required while you're building something, you can create a very, very complicated, API for your front end application. And that way you can give yourself the title of full stack developer because you have developed the backend system all by yourself. So collection types, one collection type that is inbuilt is user collection type. So you can create multiple users here. Okay. So this is just FYI for your information. Then if you go to plugins, marketplace, you can install, several plugins that are already available. Then if we go to settings, here the most important thing is users and permission plugin that you see here. And if you go to roles, you see all the roles here: authenticated, public, there can be an editor role or whatever. And then for each role, you can specify for each content type. Okay. When I say content type, I mean it can be a single type like about us page. It can be a collection like blog. It can be, some inbuilt things like user permission and some things coming from some the modules. Okay. And also the who can access the content type builder. So here you can create different roles. For example, for public, I want them to be able to access about page, right? I don't want them to be able to update and delete our about us page, but I want them to be able to find. And where can they find it? In API/about page, and I can hit save. Similarly, there can be a home page, right? Which everyone will be able to find, and we have to give them permission by default for safety. It's the permissions are nothing, right? Like, no one can access it. So you have to be very specific in which roles you want to give access to what features or what power you want to give to each role. So this is something I wanted you to be aware of. So a quick recap. Strapi is one of the most popular content management system. It's written in JavaScript. It's open source. It's highly extendable. You can add new features to it with very minimal effort. You will see that. You will see it in one of the master classes that it's really simple to create a Strapi plugin. And for a user, the barrier to entry is minimum. So with whatever information I've shared with you in this class, you can literally create. So the entire of the library, system, you can create using just the information uh, that I've shared here. So basically you have, if you look at the admin board, we have a section content manager. Here we can literally see the content. So we have created 3 authors. We have written 1 blog. Okay. So you can see all of the real entries here. Okay. Not just see, you can manage, you can edit, you can delete, you can clone, right? You can copy. So here you can see that you can duplicate, right? Then we have content type builder. It So you don't have to install any extra plugin for it. Strapi ships with content type builder. So content types can be of 3 types. One is a collection type, another is a single type, and third is components. What is a collection type? A content type which can have multiple entries is a collection. Okay. What is a single type? A content type that can have only one entry is called a single type. And what is a component? Component is a set of fields which together forms an unit. And we can use those components in our dynamic zones. So a dynamic zone is a place where the admin user, a zone in which the admin user can add data, enter data, but that is dynamic. That zone is not fixed or rigid. The user can select any combination of components and make their own sort of customized data. and this gives a lot of flexibility to the authors to use their creativity. So we can create a big number of components for them, give them a dynamic zone, and then they are responsible, right? They can add a hero from as one of the components, then some paragraphs, some quotation text, very similar to the experience, the editor experience of a Notion page or a Medium blog, but it's built in. It's just there for you in Strapi. So today, apart from getting into the code and building your own plugins, uh, we have uh, we have learned how to use the Strapi admin UI to create our own API or the backend system with very minimal efforts. Okay, so I highly encourage you. Please explore it. Please play around with it. Try to host it in the Heroku free tier and just have fun with it. Just be a real full stack developer in JavaScript, right? You are writing a React front end. That means you are a JavaScript front end developer. Why not create backend skills? And you see, it's so easy. In one class, we learned almost everything about the admin UI. And in the next class, maybe we will learn about creating a plugin system by, we learn to get into the code and maybe get into more subtle details about Strapi. So yeah, this was all I wanted to teach you today about Strapi, one of the most popular headless content management systems available in the market as of now. I wish you had a great learning time. Have a great rest of the weekend and have a great life. Bye bye.